Story recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain an action, fantasy, thriller film called Underworld, Rise of the Lycans. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. 2 decades after the creation of vampires and werewolves, a war began. The werewolves grow in numbers as they could now infect others, turning them into werewolves. Viktor, leader of the vampires, created a legion to protect them from werewolves. One day, a baby named Lucian was born from the werewolves. Over the years, Lucian grew stronger than the others. Lucian was the first Lycan, a hybrid between werewolf and human. Viktor then used Lucian to breed more Lycans, turning them into immortal slaves. Years later, a council meeting takes place. Lycan, Viktor's advisor, informs Viktor that the human nobles are upset with the werewolves. Viktor doesn't care and shrugs any idea of helping the humans. Meanwhile, a rider in patrol is being chased by wolves in the woods. She kills 2 of them as she makes her way back to the castle. She reaches the castle, and this alarms Lucian and the vampires. Lucian takes his crossbow and shoots the remaining wolves down. The rider reveals herself to be Sonja, Viktor's daughter. Sonja insults Lucian, and Viktor tells Sonja to be more grateful to the man who saved her. Sonja tells them that she needed no saving and dismisses herself. Viktor then tells Sonja that she missed the council. Sonja gives an excuse, but Viktor reminds her to stay in the castle and do her duty as a council member. Viktor wants Sonja to be more political, ruthless, and cunning like him, and above all, loyal to no one but him. Outside, the Lycans are working as slaves. One of them gets tired and takes a break. Costa, the overseer, sees this and instantly whips him, telling him to keep working. Lucian comes and stops Costa. Costa insults Lucian, calling him the master's dog, and curses him before walking away. Back at the council, Lycan informs Viktor that the werewolves are being more ruthless than before. Viktor reminds him that the Lycans protect them. Lycan agrees but also reminds him about the human nobles, suggesting to Viktor that they protect them. Lycan further suggests that they should use the Lycans to patrol at day. Viktor thinks this to be preposterous as he thinks the Lycans only as savage beasts. Lycan proceeds to go into detail, telling him that they should create a privileged class of Lycans with better food and quarters and let Lucian lead them. He then calls on Sonja to hear her thoughts, but Viktor sees Sonja has not attended the council once again. Viktor tells Tanis to find Sonja and tells Lycan that he will consider his suggestion. Meanwhile, the Lycans are now being dismissed from work. Lucian, however, sneaks towards an underground passage through a trapdoor and makes his way to an abandoned part of the castle. There he meets Sonja, and the two immediately get passionate with one another. Afterward, Lucian tells Sonja that he wants to leave, and invites her to join him. Lucian shows Sonja his self-made key to unbind his shackle. Sonja tells him not to do it, but Lucian makes his point clear, telling her that the way the Lycans are treated is unfair. He must leave, but he can't do it without Sonja. Tanis is still looking for Sonja. He checks her bed, but she wasn't there. He roams around the castle until he sees Lucian and Sonja together. Tanis reports to Viktor but doesn't tell him about Sonja and Lucian. Instead, he lies and tells Viktor that Sonja won't answer from her room. Tanis then tells Viktor that they should prepare for the nobles are arriving. The humans arrive at the rendezvous point in the woods, and the patrol fires a flare to signal their arrival. Sonja sees the signal and prepares to intercept them. Lucian hands Sonja her sword but asks her to let someone else go in her stead as he fears something terrible might happen. Sonja is insistent that she can handle herself and tells him that he can watch her from the walls. On the way out, Tanis also stops her on Viktor's command, but Sonja doesn't listen and heads out with her men. Tanis then approaches Lucian, telling him to be careful in keeping his secret. Lucian realizes that Tanis knows about them. Sonja arrives at the woods and intercepts the humans. But suddenly, the wolves make their presence known. Lucian senses that the attack will overwhelm Sonja and tries to send some troops to aid her, but they disobey his command, so he steals a horse and immediately heads out. Sonja and the humans get ambushed by wolves. The wolves wipe out the troops and start killing the human slaves. One of the slaves, Rays, fights back and defends the slaves. Sonja fights back, killing werewolves when Lucian arrives to help them. They retaliate, but a massive pack of wolves approaches them. Lucian uses the key, unshackles himself, and turns into a werewolf. Surprisingly, he is able to command the wolves to back off. But the rest of the troops arrive and shoot Lucian in the back. Viktor is with them and immediately approaches the two. Sonja tries to reason that Lucian did it to save her. But Viktor is furious that Lucian and Sonja disobeyed him. He tells Lucian that he will now be treated like a slave. Sonja tries to stop her father, but Viktor shuts her, and they head back. Tanis sees and picks up the shackle and observes it. Back at the castle, the council gathers outside to witness Lucian's punishment. Viktor tells Lucian that he has regretted raising him for his betrayal and tells Costa to lash him 30 times. The lashing begins. Sonja listens in distress to her secret lover's agony. Viktor walks away, and Lycan follows, telling him to stop the punishment for Lucian as their protector. Viktor shows no sympathy, calling them beasts. Lycan warns him that it could potentially stir the other Lycans. Viktor doesn't listen and proves that the Lycans cannot be trusted at all. After the punishment, the guards take Lucian to the dungeon. There, Ray sees Lucian significantly injured, feels sorry, and gives him water to drink. Viktor approaches Sonja and is curious why she was concerned for Lucian, a slave. Sonja reminds Viktor that he told her to be more grateful to the one who saved her and asks why he was not grateful to the one who saved his daughter. Viktor tells her that he reserves no gratitude nor sentiment to those who break his rule. In prison, Lucian commends Reyes for his bravery in the fight against the wolves. Lucian then asks if Reyes was afraid of the wolves, to which he replies he was, but he wanted to live. Lucian reassures Reyes that he is not like them and explains that werewolves are mindless savage beasts, unlike a Lycan like him. Reyes then tells him that the wolves obeyed him, which leaves Lucian wondering why. Sonja then secretly makes her way to the dungeon and meets Lucian apologizing, blaming herself. Lucian tells her that it's not her fault and tells her that he has to leave. He then tells Sonja that Tanis knows about the two of them. Sonja wonders how, but Lucian suspects that Tanis has not told Viktor yet and must want something, so he tells Sonja to find out what. At the dungeon, the guards give the Lycans food and make fun of them, calling them dogs. When the guards leave, Lucian tells the Lycans to stop bickering as they are not animals. Lucian could not take it anymore, so he stirs the Lycans, telling them that it's finally time for them to stop being treated like animals, and start acting like Lycans. At the council chamber, Viktor tells Sonja that he will execute Lucian for fear that he might stir the other Lycans. Later that night, Sonja ambushes Tanis and pins him to a wall, asking him if he has told Viktor anything. Tanis says he hasn't, so Sonja asks why he told Viktor nothing. Tanis explains that reporting to Viktor about his daughter consorting with a Lycan might risk his own life. Tanis then tells her that he plans to use this information for his own benefit, that he wants to be on the council. Sonja bargains that if Tanis helps them and keeps the secret, she will give up her seat. The guards then take Lucian somewhere private. There he meets Sonja with Tanis' help. Sonja immediately tells Lucian that Viktor plans to kill him the next day and tells him to leave at sunrise when Viktor and the patrol guards are asleep. Sonja will keep her father company, but they plan to meet in 3 days after sunset. They kiss each other goodbye, and Sonja leaves. The guard then takes Lucian back to his prison. Later on, the guards take the humans out to finally turn them into Lycans. Lucian wishes Reyes well on his way out. Out of the blue, Tanis approaches Lucian from above and tells him to be ready when things change. He then gives Lucian a key to his shackles as a parting gift and leaves. The humans are now turned into Lycans and are brought back into the cell. Lucian explains that they are going to be used for the vampire's protection. Reyes tells him that he'd rather die, but Lucian explains his plan to escape and invites them to come with him. He continues that there is life waiting for them outside the castle. Reyes and the others agree to go with him, then stay and serve. Dawn is upon them, and the time has come. Costa goes into the dungeon to check on the new Lycans, but they tell him that Lucian has escaped. This prompts Costa to check Lucian's cell, opening it, and to his demise, Lucian, in werewolf form, ambushes him and kills him. He then reverts to human form and rallies all the Lycans and starts releasing everyone. They then begin their escape, overwhelming the guards in the dungeon, and releasing the other Lycans. They make their way outside, but one of them makes a noise, alerting the troops. On the run, the guards fire a barrage of ballista at them, killing some of the Lycans. Lucian and the others maneuver around, but the troops focus fires at the door and trap most of the Lycans behind. Reyes desperately tries to help, but Lucian tells him it's useless and promises the trapped Lycans that he will come back for them. Lucian and the others find the exit, but 2 guards intercept them. So with all of Lucian's might, he rams both guards, pushing them outside the castle, and basking them in burning sunlight. The rest of the remaining Lycans follow, and they head for the woods. Viktor investigates the dungeon where they find Costa's dead body and see Lucian's shackles. Viktor interrogates Tanis and asks where the key to the shackle is, and he responds that it's in the armory. Viktor then asks how the shackle is open, to which Tanis claims he has no idea. Viktor threatens to kill Tanis, but he pleads and tells Viktor to check the armory. In the armory, Tanis nervously checks where he placed the key and finds it. This makes Viktor conclude that Lucian must have made another key and spares Tanis. Outside, Lucian tells his brethren that they will go back to save the other Lycans. Lucian then asks Reyes to lead them to the noble's estate with who he was with. Reyes agrees, and they raid the place. After the raid, Lucian frees some slaves and lets them choose to fight with him or not, promising immortality to those who join him. The Lycans now grow in numbers, and Lucian commands Reyes to free more slaves to join him. Lucian leaves and entrusts the Lycans under Reyes' command. In the middle of the night, Lucian finds a cave and enters. He finds himself in the den of the werewolves and meets their leader. That same night, Viktor finds the tunnel Lucian uses to meet Sonja secretly. He then investigates the tunnel and eventually came to a horrifying conclusion. Viktor then enters Sonja's room and meets her there. Viktor talks about Lucian, telling her how he could have been anything. Suddenly, Viktor asks Sonja if she helped him escape. Sonja strongly denies it, but Viktor bites her neck, revealing her memories to him. Viktor is furious and slaps her. Viktor is in complete disbelief. Sonja tells him that she loves Lucian, further angering Viktor. He feels betrayed by the person he loved more than anything. Viktor leaves and locks her in her room. Viktor heads back to the council and learns of what Lucian did to the other estates. Columbin tells Viktor that he needs to bring Lucian back before anything could get worse. But Viktor tells them that he need not do anything, for Lucian will surely return to Sonja. Lucian returns to the camp and wonders why Sonja hasn't arrived yet. Suddenly, a girl on a horse arrives. Lucian thought it to be Sonja, but to his disappointment, it was Luca, who tells him that Sonja has been arrested. This prompts Lucian to hurry back to the castle alone. Reyes tries to stop him, for they might lose their men. Lucian then tells him that Reyes will be in charge until he returns or leads them if he doesn't return, and runs back to the castle. Lucian arrives outside the walls and sneaks his way in. He sneaks past more guards and silently ambushes the two men guarding Sonja's room. Lucian and Sonja finally reunite, and they immediately make a run for it. They head for the secret tunnel they used. Viktor was immediately notified of this escape, but he already anticipated this. While in the tunnel, Lucian and Sonja see an explosive barrel falling from above and a torch along with it, causing an explosion that blocks their way. It turns out Viktor and his men blocking their escape. Lucian and Sonja desperately try to escape, but they eventually got cornered, leaving them with no other choice but to fight. They kill a few men, but Lucian gets outnumbered and Sonja faces Viktor himself. The two fight fiercely, but Sonja gets the upper hand and disarms Viktor. Viktor tells her that killing him is futile. Sonja begs to let them go and declares that she is pregnant with Lucian's child. She calls this a miracle, a union between vampires and Lycans. But Viktor is disgusted and curses her very birth. Viktor then cunningly pulls a knife and disarms Sonja, calling the fight over. Viktor tells Sonja that he only wanted to catch Lucian and disregard her disobedience, but because of the baby, she too will now be punished. At the dungeon, Lucian starts regretting his actions, but Sonja tells him that he was right all along. Lucian feels that he failed her, but Sonja reminds him that they both made their decisions and took their own risks for each other. Suddenly, the guards take Sonja away, making Lucian furious until one of the guards shoots him, knocking him out. They then take Lucian to the council for Sonja's trial. Columbin recalls all of her crimes and claims them to be unforgivable, declaring death as the punishment. He calls on a vote to which the majority of the council agrees, now waiting for Viktor's vote. Viktor and Sonja's stares are intensely fixed at each other. But unfortunately, Viktor agrees and they take Sonja for execution. Lucian desperately pleads to Viktor, but they take him away, unable to do anything. They then chain Sonja at a stake in the execution chamber, and in front of her they chain Lucian. The council enters and Viktor immediately commands the guard to lash Lucian again. Sonja watches in despair as her lover suffers. Lucian is down, so Viktor ends the lash, looks at her daughter's reaction, and leaves along with the council. The lovers are left with nothing but each other, feeling nothing but sorrow. Suddenly, the ceiling slowly opens. Terrified, Lucian tells Sonja to keep her eyes on him and him only. Unable to do anything, the lovers could only stare and say they love each other, and as the ceiling fully opens, Sonja bids goodbye. Sunlight enters and Sonja burns. Lucian wails at the excruciating sight of Sonja's death and mourns deeply. At Sonja's room, Viktor hears Lucian's cry and mourns his daughter's loss. Later that night, Viktor enters the chamber and looks at his dead daughter. Lucian is enraged at the sight of Viktor. Viktor notices him and immediately tells his men to fetch his knives, but as the moonlight shines upon Lucian, he transforms into a wolf and assaults Viktor. Viktor's troops enter the room, so Lucian jumps out of the window and tries to make an escape. He reaches atop the walls, but the troops slow him down, firing harpoons at him. The troops intend to finish the weakened Lycan, so they shoot arrows at him. However, this prompts Lucian to let out a loud roar, so loud that it reaches his brethren in the woods. This goes on until a soldier shoots him and knocks him down. But it was too late. The ground starts to shake and a feeling of uneasiness reaches Viktor. The roar had signaled the entire pack of wolves to attack the castle, and with them, his Lycan brethren. An all-out war has begun. The vampires prepare to defend themselves, manning the walls and shooting ballistae. But it is futile. The wolves outnumber the vampires, and eventually, they reach the wall, beginning the slaughter. The council attempts to run, but the wolves reach them and kill them one by one. Reyes reaches the wall and finds Lucian heavily injured. He helps him remove the arrows and gives him clothing. Lucian tells him to free the other Lycans first. Reyes then frees the slaves and they join him in the fight. Viktor, prepared for battle, is on his way out when he finds Tanis trying to salvage his scrolls. He then stops Tanis and tells him to go to the elders instead. Viktor and his men then join the fight. Lucian has now recovered and sets his eyes on Viktor. He joins the fight and approaches Viktor. Viktor sees him coming, so he jumps on one of the holes leading to the dungeon. Lucian then chases after him. While this was all happening, Tanis had just finished securing the elders' coffins in a boat and slowly makes roses out. Lucian finds himself in the dungeon when suddenly Viktor tries to attack him by surprise. Lucian barely retaliates and falls. Viktor tells Lucian that he defiled and killed his daughter, to which Lucian yells that he loved her. Viktor then jumps down and the sword fight continues until Lucian tackles and pins Viktor down. Viktor grabs a random shackle on his side, hits him, and kicks him back. Viktor runs towards the sewers and Lucian jumps down, knocking Viktor down the stairway. Lucian picks up his sword and jumps on one of the chains, but Viktor cuts the chain, causing Lucian to fall on the stairs. But Lucian notices that the ceiling that holds the chains were crumbling, revealing sunlight. So Lucian pulls the chain hard to let the sunlight enter, burning Viktor as he uses the chains to go down faster. Lucian then chains the disoriented vampire. Viktor provokes Lucian, telling him that he should have just killed him on the day he was born. Lucian agrees but stabs Viktor in the mouth and reminds him of his mistake. Lucian then pushes the vampire off the stairs and Viktor falls down the water as he burns. The fight is now over and Lucian heads out of the castle to meet his brethren in the morning, who just won the battle against the vampires. Reyes tells Lucian that the fighting is now over. But Lucian acknowledges that the war has only just begun. Unbeknownst to them, Tanis has escaped with the ship along with the elders. And on that ship, Viktor survived, and as they escape, Viktor secures himself in one of the coffins. In the far future, voices narrate the events of what happened centuries ago, the truth about Viktor causing the demise of the vampires, and his precious daughter who he condemned to death. And now, in the midst of a stormy night, sitting at a window of a skyscraper balcony is a woman in black bearing a face similar to Sonja. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.